Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. Hopefully everybody gets that reference.
I'm sorry. I can't.
Oh, God. All right. So, J&K review back here with 1917, the movie, and pretty good. But we're going to go over it. Just want to shout out that I hope everybody's doing well, being quarantined. Hope you're staying safe. Social distancing. There we go. I think I got it.
Is that right? I don't know.
I think I got it that time. Anyway, being safe out there, making sure your neighbor's good. We're almost through this. We made it through what they say is the worst week.
Woo!
Yeah.
Let's hope that it is.
Let's hope it is. Let's hope next month we start opening things back up and getting back to it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. I hope you enjoy. And
if you like, please give us a like and subscribe.
Yeah.
For YouTube. And if you like, just be sure to subscribe on Spotify so you can listen to us anytime and get new content. "1917" is based off the height of the First World War, and it's centered around two British soldiers, and they are given what I would basically say is a suicide mission. I mean, right from the get-go, and that's really not even spoiler talk. That's just within 2 minutes of the film they're being told. Yeah, it's pretty rough. And one of the soldiers, their brother, is out there, and he's the team that they're trying to alert about something, so he instantly just goes right into the mission. The other one's a little bit more cautious about going on a mission like this.
yeah, he's even kind of regretful at one point that he got chosen to go with him, right? So.
Yeah, he even, he's kind of like, hey, why me?
Why me? Yeah, why did you choose me?
Mm-hmm. But
kind of get into it. But,
yeah, a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much the base of the whole film is just them trying to get there.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple summary. It's a pretty simple idea. They get this crazy mission. They're pushed up against enemy lines, or so they think. And so they think this is this impossible mission for just two people to get there, and they've got to. There's some pretty crazy stuff that happens to them. It's quite the adventure.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah, I don't want to say too much, but there's a lot that goes on, and it's really an interesting way that they did the movie. So it's kind of crazy. I've never quite seen anything like it, and it's like I said, it's such a simple idea.
There's not a lot of films about the First World War in general. I mean, there's always been
current films, yeah.
No, I mean not really. Maybe some older films, but there's been tons of films on Vietnam and World War II, obviously, and they might have, I don't know, more pizzazz, to film something about Vietnam or World War II. Right. World War One is kind of one of those,
right?
Yeah,
I mean it's definitely not as talked about as much as like World War II or something like that. Yeah. Like most movies you see is about World War II, so it was cool to see the a different side of it, and just the way that it was shot and the way that it was just the one shot aspect of it. That was the biggest thing I think that what this movie was kind of promoting is it's another war movie, but it was the fact that it was going to go as one shot, so it never breaks away, really. I mean, there's times when you can tell that, where the stops were, the pauses, but it just seemed like it kept going. Like there was no cutaways. There was no, split off to this character and see what they're doing. Split off to this character and see what they're doing. You're totally following these two guys right here. And it's just wild to see it in action. And I just couldn't imagine like thinking about how they would have to film that. Like just how complicated.
They would probably have to film around the actors because there was a lot of turning.
Yeah.
Like you would see them go into a different setting and all of a sudden it was like the camera just moves with them the whole film. And you can't see everything that's going on either. That's why it feels kind of, especially if you were to see this in a theater, it would probably feel like you're about as close as you could be.
Yeah.
Because
especially with all the sound.
Because the camera is just moving along with these two people. It's the cinematography in this film was probably my favorite thing about the film.
Yeah.
Not that everything else wasn't great, but it was very impressive. The cinematography kind of put this movie at a higher rating for me than
Yeah.
what I would have given it without something like this.
Yeah, it is just wild. That was the most impressive thing. Like I've said already, that it, the story. I mean, it's a pretty simple. Hey, you've got to go from here to here, point A to point B, and we think there's a lot of enemies in the way, but there's not really. You come to find out, which isn't a spoiler. It's just But
No.
so anyway, it's a crazy way that they shot the movie, and we'll get into that. So the actors in this movie. Were they again? That was you had a couple good ones, like several good ones actually in this. You had Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm gonna just point him out. I know you don't see him for some of the movie, but he is in there, of course, a good favorite. Colin Firth.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, because
He's
you got the
awesome.
hots for him.
Well, he's a foxy older man. What
Silver
can I say?
fox.
Yeah. If you I mean, I'm sorry, but Bridget Jones' Diary. That's all I have to say about that.
My God.
And then you had 2 different actors from Game of Thrones, which was really cool. It's kind of like, it kind of pulled me out of the movie just a little bit because I haven't seen either one of these 2 in anything. And as soon as the film started, I looked at you and I was like, I know who that is. I just can't
I was surprised.
figure out who it is.
I didn't realize that he was in the Dean Charles Chapman.
Yeah.
Which, if anybody doesn't know, is the son, what is it? The third son? Second son?
I think it's the second
He's
son.
the big whiny baby that can't make any decisions on Game of Thrones.
I think his name was Theodore.
I don't remember.
Wasn't it?
I don't
Anyway,
know. He's the one that jumps out and kills himself.
Jamie
Spoiler alert.
Cersei. Well, I mean, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones by now, you're probably not going to.
There's something wrong with you.
Yes, there is also something wrong with you if you haven't seen that show.
Yeah.
And then Richard Madden.
Yeah,
Richard Madden was
Madden.
also in it, and he played Ned Stark's, up and coming son. He got brutally ended at the Red Wedding.
Red Wedding.
Yep. Sorry, I don't mean to nerd out on Game of Thrones. It's just when you see him, you're like, you have a moment when you're watching the film. So.
Yeah, I was mad about that episode. Red Wedding, ring a bell. That was ridiculous. That's where I vowed to never watch it again, but here we are years later, and I've watched the entire thing. So.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, Richard Madden. He was in it for a short period of time, but Dean Charles Chapman, I want to go back to him because the role that he plays in this one is much different than the little whiny baby role that he played in Game of Thrones for most of the Game of Thrones. He was very take charge in this one, very much kind of the brave, kind of I've got to get to my brother. In the story, it's his brother that he's trying to get to, right? He's not only trying to warn them of something that's an attack that's coming, but he's trying to get there because it's his brother is also a part of this platoon. Yeah. And so, but he's very take charge. He's like, I'm going, I don't care if I got to go by myself. And he's kind of the hero in some sorts of.
Yeah, he really was. I mean, he just didn't think very long about. I mean, of course, if it's your brother, you're just going to jump in. So he really pushed for them to keep going, don't turn back, just, and there's even a point where, they're having a scuff and, one of them doesn't want to keep going. And he's like, hey, look, you don't want to go. That's fine. I'm going.
Going. It's my brother.
Yeah, I'm going. So I was impressed with his acting.
Yeah.
I was kind of nervous once I realized who it was because I didn't know how it was going to go. Just because, not that he was a total whiny baby in Game of Thrones, but because he was still pretty much a kid in that show. I mean, he grew up on that show. So I think this was kind of his first acting position where he had to kind of take charge, the character that he played.
Yeah. And it takes a minute. Well, it took a minute for me to get used to it because I just did see him in Game of Thrones. And then, I don't know. Sometimes maybe you think he's overacting or whatever. But once you get into it, you're like, oh, no. They're doing a really, really good job. It was really good.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
Good acting. Very good. And did we talk about Sam Mendes, the director?
I don't know.
I don't think we talked about it. So this movie is directed by Sam Mendes. Okay, Sam Mendes. He also helped write it along with Christy Wilson Cairns. I don't know. She's only done She's only done one other movie, which was Last Night in Soho, which was also in 2020, and I don't even know if it's been out yet.
Probably not.
Yeah, so this is new. So
Coronavirus.
So yeah, she also wrote it, but Sam Mendes, he's done several movies. He's done Keeper of Magic, Spectre, National Theater Live, Blood, Skyfall, Netherland, Away We Go. He's done several.
Ooh.
Jarhead was another one.
Revolutionary Road.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah. So this guy's very experienced in some of this type of film, but I've never seen a one-shot film, which was interesting. So,
I hate that I don't know who the cinematographer was, like the main guy, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, he did win the Oscar for like Best Picture as far as the way it was shot this last year.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he has won a lot. Whenever they announced him and he came up, he's won several. So I think he's kind of known for doing cinematography and really tries new stuff.
I have to find his name. But anyway, I agree. I mean, we'll get into the creative elements of this. So the costumes, the set design and stuff. And like, of course, we've already said it's the one-shot film. So just thinking about what they've had to go through as these actors. I mean, there's times when there's times when they had time to stop and pause. Obviously, you can tell that, you know, they'll pass through a shadow where you can't see anybody and they come out the other side. So you know that they probably stopped the movie right there. But you can still tell that they had like long periods of scripted filming that they had to do. Like the first part of the movie, which isn't a spoiler. So they're walking down a trench. And they're just continually talking. So you know they had to film that all at once because there's not any point where like a cart passes in front of them to where they could like stop the film and then pause and everybody collects themselves and figure out what they're going to do for the next take and then just start off with that crate or that cart that passed in front of them moving on, you know what I mean, to make it look like a seamless thing. So you know that there had to be like long periods of just shoot where like the camera is just rolling and they're just going, and it's probably a good 10-15 minute conversation with all this stuff that they had to memorize and all these things they had to do, you know, or even more than 15 minutes maybe in the movie, to where it was just one shot. That first bit, you can tell like the characters were kind of moving in and out of the shot. Like you would have a focus on one character and they would sit there and talk, and then they would like all of a sudden the camera would like slide around and pan around, and then you would have one character also walking down, and then it would switch back around.
Well, and then they ran into people.
It was crazy. Yeah, and then
they ran into other soldiers and had conversations, and it was just, that's why you felt like you were there. I mean,
it was wild.
It was probably about as close to something you'd see on stage from people who don't have the luxury of cut and okay, let's go again, where it's just live and just what happens is what happens. Probably about the closest thing you'll see on film.
And so because
it was impressive.
It was awesome.
Very impressive.
And you know that they, I mean, just because of that first little bit of the film, you know they had to have a trench. I would imagine, I don't know anything about making movies like this, but I would imagine they had to have a trench that was that freaking large. Like they had to go in, the crew and everybody had to dig a trench that was that long.
I think when they showed the cinematographer, whenever they were showing, I hate to go back to the Oscars, but when they showed like different cinematographers and the people that were nominated and they showed the way they filmed their films, they did show him near the trench. Yeah. So I think that there really was one.
There had to be.
They really did dig one.
It had to be that long for them to take that whole thing and just literally, like, they were walking at a good pace. And they had to have all these people set up in this trench as they're walking along, which was super impressive. And that's not even the biggest impressive thing. There's also times in the film with just the lighting and the just, I mean, you can tell at one point he's running through just this set piece. And you can tell it's just a set piece and, like, somebody's in the background shooting off flares. And it's really somebody shooting off flares, but they do such a good job of like making it seem like it's the enemy, and it's literally probably some just guy in the corner setting off flares. So it's like it's just crazy how it looks, because you can tell they're filming at night at one point, and it's nothing but there's no special effects is what I'm getting at. There's no computer generated special effects, nothing. It's literally the lighting and the way that they've done it and the settings that make it looks like stuff's blowing up. Make it looks like, you know, missiles are coming down, you know, makes it look like that the enemies are actually shooting up flares to try to find him as he's running through this field. it's wild.
Yeah, it's
Very impressive.
It's very impressive. And the music, the music is another big thing, because there are lots of times in the film where it's just them trying to get somewhere and there's not a lot of talking. And sometimes there will be talking, but the music will kind of go over the talking. Then the talking becomes a little more muffled and in the background.
Yeah, it's
because your characters at that point are having like a moment for themselves. So there's the world happening around them, but they're having their own moment. So it's the music was very
the sounds in
very,
general.
very
In a movie like this, you're gonna have to have good sound quality, and I couldn't imagine being in a theater. Okay, so this may give away a little bit of what I recommend, even though we can't really go to theaters and stuff right now. But in the end, when we talk about what our final is, it may get. We can't really go, but watching this in a theater, and maybe we'll get a chance again someday. But just the sound, the explosions, the guns, all that has to be crisp. It has to be like on point all the time. And this movie does a great job of doing that. Really immerses you in the experience, and it's really almost like a roller coaster ride. It's meant to just sit back in your seat and just enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you get to kind of experience it, but it's just the one shot thing is what blows my mind. And there's a lot of heartfelt moments in there. A lot of, even on the enemy side, you get to see the families that they're having to leave behind. You're dealing with, you hear stories about being at home and, all the stuff that comes with a lot of the war movies and things like that. It's really excellent. I thought it was good.
It's a beautiful film.
Yeah. So I guess that stumbles into our ratings. Like, what would we recommend?
Well, before we give ours, Rotten Tomatoes did give this film an 89%. Now, for me, I would probably see this in theaters if it was a possibility.
Yeah.
Probably the trailer alone would kind of give me that oh, okay, I need to go. That's a film I've got to see in theaters.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, we're sitting here watching the trailer and it's showing, that it got the Golden Globe for Best Picture. Really is an experience.
Well, it was a nominee for Best Picture.
A nominee.
Oscars
Okay,
too.
sorry.
Oh, no. I meant for Oscars.
Oh, for all.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably did win the Golden Globe. I did not watch that one, so I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's great. And I know that the 2 reviews we've done now are all very positive, but this is something that I would see in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it to go in there and just get the experience of the sounds and everything. It's well worth it. And the acting was good. I thought everything all the way around was really good. It was a longer movie.
Yeah.
It felt like a longer movie, but it was
a little long.
It was long, but it was it's 110
good.
Minutes, which I guess isn't too bad. That's not
no,
even,
it's just because, like I said before,
close to 2
there
hours.
were lots of times where there wasn't much talking going on. It was just exhibition. It was just someone trying to get from one place to another place.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of just watching them go through stuff and see things, and some of the sites weren't that pretty. Well, most of the sites weren't that pretty, but there was just a lot of not speaking. Lots of plot without speaking. So
the only so there is a complaint. I'll just throw this into this part. The little complaint that I have is like, it's single shot. I loved that. Okay, but we're talking about the amount of distance, and I may have just missed some things. Maybe I'm wrong, but the distance that he traveled for a 110-minute movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time where he, kind of loses track of time at one point. And I understand that, but it's the distance that he traveled. It would be, he probably traveled, I don't know what, really probably around 45 miles. I would think, like, he didn't travel that far. You know what I mean? In such a short time.
At the beginning of the film how far they have to go, and I can't remember.
I don't even know if it's 45 miles. I just threw that out there as a,
I'm not sure.
Exaggeration a little bit, but it's just like
So
110 minutes. Like he's like they're walking for most of the movie, and
Mm-hmm.
they yet they went to this whole other platoon that's, supposedly what they want to make you feel like is miles away, but it's been a one-shot movie, and so you there's been all these events that have stopped you at this one location or this location for long periods of time, and you really only lost a day. Like in the movie, it only took a day to get there. You know what I mean?
Well,
and
maybe it wasn't that far, but maybe they just knew that there was going to be a lot of
and
obstacles.
That's possible. Maybe I just
because there were a lot of obstacles.
There was a lot of things,
but there was also a lot of like they stumble across a couple of things that if certain things hadn't happened or if they hadn't gotten distracted, it wouldn't have taken so long to get from one point to the next.
Right. And I guess I get that. The whole point was that they thought they had such a resistance in between those 2 points that it was going to be a lot worse than it was, but which it was still bad. But
okay, the character that Colin Firth plays, he tells them that they have gone back several. I can't remember what he said exactly about how far they went, but they were basically retreating because they thought that they had won. So they were just leaving. But whenever they got closer to leaving the trench at the very first of the film, all the soldiers and the guy that they were supposed to say, hey, we need a flare to let you know when we've made it. The captain.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, well, you're never. We'll see if you make it. Just throw back the flare if you're going to die because we need it. So they weren't thinking that they were going to get that far, but they did. So I don't know if I would say that they all thought that they weren't going to make it, but the captain and some of the soldiers there at the front of the trench definitely didn't think they were going to make it.
And this again, I mean, it's not spoilers. You learn this right at the beginning. It's not a big deal. It's nothing that's going to affect the story, but they're dug in because they think that their German soldiers are within, hundreds of yards away from them in another trench dug down with like some of their biggest weapons. And they are, but it's literally, it's what they make it seem like is like within a day they get up and they just leave. So they're dug in and they're fighting, they're killing each other. And they're both dug in these trenches, hundreds of yards away, and they're all firing at each other. And then within a day, the German side's just gone.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're like, everybody still thinks that the German side is there, and they're trying to get, so when these two guys come up and they're like, hey, we're going to cross, they're like, you're crazy. We can't even stick our heads out.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're getting in another spot. Let's,
little off track.
Little off track, but the rating, definitely see it in theater on my side. See it in theater if you ever get a chance. It's been out for a while. Well, for a month.
Yeah.
March 10th.
Yeah. Well, no.
No, I'm sorry. January 10th.
Yeah, January 10th.
March 10th is when it was on disc. So it's already on disc.
Yeah.
So hopefully you got to see it in theaters. Awesome. So I would like to see it in theaters, but it was nice just watching it at home. I enjoyed it. You should definitely watch it. You should definitely rent it. I wouldn't do anything illegal. I'm not recommending anything for that. You do want to see it in its highest quality. So renting it and watching it at HD quality is something I recommend because it's beautiful. It's got good lighting. You want the sound to be good. Yeah. Don't do anything illegal because you're just missing.
Don't do anything illegal
because you're missing out on the experience. I mean, I know it's there. It's easy to do. It's just like most of those sites are not good, and this deserves to be like seen at the highest quality. Because you're gonna miss out if you're looking at it and it's for, whatever, it's like the lowest quality and it's all pixelated and stuff. It's gonna be crappy. You don't want to watch that. So anyway, it's worth your time.
Not much talking, folks. So you do want to see a good picture.
It's worth your time. It's worth your attention. Let the kids go to bed. Grab a drink or whatever. Grab some popcorn. Sit back. Watch it.
Or some chocolate.
Enjoy it. Chocolate's good sometimes.
And chocolate's good all the time. I don't know who you are, but.
Anything else?
No, that's it. I think that's going to cover our review of 1917.
Yeah. Thank y'all for listening to the first real episode. This is episode 2, but it's the first episode that is actually made just for a podcast. So we're going to put it on YouTube. It's going to be on Spotify. If you like what you hear, again, make sure you like us and follow and subscribe and whatever is on your device. Just get it to where you are notified when we have another And I think we've got another coming very soon.
We do.
So we just watched it
check
tonight.
in on us again soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Hope everybody has a good one. Stay safe out there. And we'll see you in the next one. Appreciate it.